Good evening. Welcome back to Cruise News. I'm Brian, and I'll be your head anchor for tonight. Tonight we'll be focused on a new social change our country is undergoing. It's 1920, and the U.S. Congress has finally given the right to vote. The 19th Amendment has been passed, granting women suffrage. In other words, the amendment prohibits any U.S. citizen from being denied the right to vote on the basis of sex. The amendment brought great joy for women throughout the United States. Furthermore, it seemed that our country had brought a new breed of women called the flapper. Flappers wear short skirts, bobbed hair, typically listen to jazz, and have erratic behavior. Lately, flappers have been reported to wear excessive makeup, drinking heavily, smoking, driving automobiles, and disregarding usual social norms. Hello again. I'm here with my friend of mine, Brendan, whose girlfriend happens to be a flapper. How's it like dating a flapper?
Well, I'll tell you, Brian, it's something else. She's almost never home. She's usually hanging out at the bars with her friends, and she likes to keep her hair bobbed. And she's actually a very good dancer. She's not too bad at the Charleston, I'll tell you that right now. And yeah, so she's very flamboyant, and I still love her. She smokes a lot, but I still put up with it.
Wow, she sounds like an interesting girl.
Oh yes, oh yes.
We'll be now going to Thomas, who'll be covering prohibition throughout the United States.
Welcome. Today marks the one-year anniversary of the ratification of the 18th Amendment to the U.S. Constitution. This entitled the government to ban the manufacture, transportation, and sale of intoxicating liquors and ushered in a period known as Prohibition. Prohibition has been difficult to enforce despite the passage of the companion act known as the Volstead Act. Prohibition has also been much more easily enforced in small town and rural areas. However, in urban areas it has been much harder to reinforce considering the speakeasies and bootlegging that has been occurring. And despite very early signs of success, including in a decline in arrests for drunkenness and a reported drop in alcohol consumption, prohibition has been much harder to take on than the government had predicted.
Thank you, Thomas. We now be going over to Joey. We've been talking about the struggles of labor throughout the U.S.
The struggle of labor. New labor unions during the 1920s pushed for strikes and changes in workers' conditions. Many general strikes during the 1920s were this war of labor versus capital. The labor consisted of industrial workers and their unions, where capital consisted of industrialists and their financiers. The first general strike was the 1919 Seattle General Strike, which took place in February. Another case of this was the novel by Sinclair Lewis Babbitt in 1922. This took place during the Red Scare period, and anyone who defended their labor union risked ostracism or banishment as unpatriotic radicals. Also, animated cartoons served to get their point across, but it showed the lighter side of things. The two most popular ones were Mutt and Jeff on Strike, where they demanded lower hours and a percentage of profit, but when loudly refused, they announced their strike. And Felix the Cat, Felix Revolts, where the ever-feisty Felix the Cat leads a cat strike when the town council bans them as being a nuisance.
Thank you, Joey. We'll now be going to our next co-anchor, Johnny, who'll be talking about new leisure activities in the U.S.
Hello, Johnny Huber here, reporting your daily life in the Roaring Twenties. Movies. Seems to be no difference between the rich and the poor once you step foot in the theater. Everyone seems to bond over their attraction or their hatred to the movie. Seems to be a rising of fancy movie theaters, though. So if you got the dough, you can go to those theaters, I guess, if you want to. Drive-in theaters are becoming popular, too. Richard Hollingshed created this idea in June of '33. Seems to be a huge hit. I think this idea has potential to go big all around the country. Fads, flagpole sitting, and dance marathons. Some people are climbing up on flagpoles and are sitting on the top of them for fun. And these dance marathons are crazy. I've seen them go on for more than 10 hours. This was Johnny Huber with your daily life in the Roaring Twenties.
Thanks, Johnny, for reporting daily life. We now have a guest who's a flagpole sitter.
Hello.
So what's the longest time you've been on a flagpole before?
Well, I'd say about 4 days.
4 days? How did you use the restroom?
Well, I just held it in.
Thank you for joining us. Thank you for tuning in to Cruise News today. We hope you enjoyed our special in the Roaring Twenties. Brian Cruz, signing off.